Good evening, everybody. The time is now 6:01 on January the 19th, 2021. And so I'd like to call this Public Facilities Authority meeting to order. We'd like to go ahead and get started with our invocation, starting off with our prayer and then our Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask Commissioner Henderson if you wouldn't mind praying for us today, and Commissioner Cowan, if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everyone bow their heads. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come before thee. Just thank you for all that we've been through this week and past week. Week before that, we ask that you continue to bless our citizens. We ask you continue to put your loving arms around them during this COVID devastation that we have in our community, as we constantly are hearing of friends that we know who have passed due to COVID. And so we just ask that you as leaders and guides in the way that you would have us to go and protect us as you always have and you always will. This we pray. In our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm sure each one of you have had an opportunity to go through our agenda outline for tonight. So I'd like to seek an motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So move.
Thank you, sir. I have a second. Second. Thank you, ma'am. So we have a motion by Commissioner Henderson and a second by Commissioner Sanders. All in favor? We can go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
The public facilities agenda that I got prior to today had what we have as number 9 as the first or second agenda item, and now it's number 9. Is there any particular reason for that?
I think probably because we've already really had a lot of discussion on that particular item. And so we really won't need a lot of discussion on it because we've already been dealing with that. So I think the other items will probably need a little bit more discussion.
Well, wouldn't it make more sense to go ahead and vote for that one and get it out of the way?
Actually, no.
Is there any particular reason why that's a no?
Because we've already been discussing it, so we don't really need to go into a lot of extensive discussion about it. Any other discussion? All in favor? All opposed? All right, we have 4 and 1 opposed by Commissioner Edwards. All right, and then we'll move to agenda item number 4, which is the approval of the PFA minutes dated November 3rd, 2020. I believe you all got that agenda or the minutes from that previous meeting. So I seek a motion for approval of the previous meeting's minutes.
So moved as stated by the Chairman.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Commissioner Henderson and second by Commissioner Sanders to approve. All those in favor? And all those opposed? Thank you. That was approved 5-0. All right, agenda item number 5 is the election of our authority officers. And I'm going to let Stan, Lord. Sam, not Stan, Sam, let Sam actually kind of go through what the election of our officers are and kind of give us some additional details.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, as you know, the PFA is not all that old, and in November, we elected our officers for 2020, but the bylaws do call for elections every year in January. There are 3 officer positions: chair, vice chair, and secretary. Jackie will kindly serve as the secretary, so today we're just voting for chair and vice chair. And as you are familiar with the Board of Commissioners, the role is fairly similar. The chair kind of takes charge of the meeting, and the vice chair steps in when the chair is unavailable. So I guess I would just turn it over to you to nominate amongst yourselves a chair and vice chair. Thank you.
Okay, so at this time, we'd like to open it up for nominations.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
nominate you, Commissioner Mason.
Thank you for that nomination. Any other nominations? Yes, Commissioner Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you all got my email. I'd like to nominate myself as for the chairman of this board, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess the question is if there was a motion to nominate you as chairman, should we, and I guess it's illegal, should we go through that process, or what is it? Is it a substitute motion, or what is it? 'Cause I mean, let me stop it, Mike, I'm sorry. Because it seems like here lately that a commissioner can come and nominate himself, and it's something that I'm not too familiar with, and it's only happened one or 2 times.
On the question of nominating oneself, I don't have an objection to that. However, I do think it makes sense to take up the nominations in the order that they are first raised here. I just sort of wanted to let people have an opportunity to express the general sense, and then once that's done, we can take up the nominations in the order they were made.
Yes, Commissioner.
Isn't it proper to have a motion to close nominations? Is that the proper way to do it? If everybody has submitted that?
I'm not sure exactly, but that makes sense.
The nominations be closed.
Is there a second?
May I just interject? We have no nominations for vice chair, so I'll just keep that in mind.
So do we want to wait to do the chair?
Yeah. All right, yeah, let's just do chairman, and then we'll move on to vice chair. Sorry about it's kind of a weird thing.
Okay.
So there was a motion on the floor to close the nominations for chair. Is there a second? Thank you, sir. So we have a motion to close the nominations for chairperson for the Newton County Public Facilities Authority, and we had a second by Commissioner Henderson. So we need to go back, since we have nominations, how do we go back? Do we just?
First we'll vote on the motion to close.
Okay, we'll do that.
But did everyone vote on the?
No, we didn't. All right, so all that are in favor that we close the nomination for chairman? All in favor? And then all opposed? Okay, so that passes 5-0. And so now we'll go into the nominations for each. We had a nomination first for myself for chairman, to remain as chairman. All those that are in favor for Commissioner DeMond Mason to be chair? Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt. I have a question for legal first, before we vote. Who are the legal voting members of this body? All 5?
Yes, sir, all 5.
Thank you.
So all in favor for Commissioner Edwards to be the chair? All opposed? That failed, so do we need to do the second first?
So they didn't vote, did they vote on you? Sorry, I was confused.
No, not yet.
Then,
Just Commissioner Edwards.
so then you do you next.
Okay, so that was 3-0 3-2 for Commissioner Edwards. And now for Commissioner Mason. Yes, sir, you had a question? Okay.
I have a question for legal. I mean, it seems to me like it's every 3 months that we're appearing, voting on a chairman. So does this last for a year?
Yes, sir, until the next election in January 2022.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor for Commissioner Mason to remain as the chair? All opposed? All right, so that shows Commissioner Mason will remain 3-2. All right, thank you. So we'll move down to the next item.
We're going to call for nomination for vice chair.
I'm sorry. Now I'd like to call for nominations for vice chair of the Newton County Public Facilities Authority.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Edwards, please.
Thank you, sir. Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate myself, Elena Sanders.
Okay. Any other nominations? If not, I seek a motion to close the nominations for vice chair.
So moved as stated by the chairman.
Thank you, sir. And a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Henderson and a second by Commissioner Cowan. So all those in favor that we close the elections for vice chair? All in favor? And all those opposed? All right, so we're now closing the vice chair. So we'll now go back and vote for Commissioner Edwards to be the vice chair. All those in favor for Commissioner Edwards to be the vice chair? And all those opposed? Thank you. And so now we'll open it up for Commissioner Sanders to be the vice chair. All in favor? All those that oppose? All right, thank you. So Commissioner Sanders will be our vice chair for 2021. All right, now moving to our next item on our agenda, item number 6, District 4 project request. And what I'd like to do is ask each commissioner, if that's your district, if you can kind of explain your projects. So give a brief explanation. So I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Henderson to kind of explain your projects for District 4.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
If just a moment, and I know we did not move this to the top, but we have got to make a vote on number 9 tonight. So if everybody would be willing to keep their discussion as minimum as possible, we've got to do this. We're on a time frame.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you. I think as far as the District 4 projects, and I think the first one that we had mentioned, I think Laura and I spoke about a few months ago, and it was the RL Cousins. And I asked him, I said, well, how much money would it take to renovate it, to put the early voting station there, and do what's necessary? And we had an engineer. What's his gentleman's name? Lloyd. What's the gentleman's name? The engineer walked over Cousin with us and several of the citizens over in that way. What was his name?
I think the estimate that we did have was right around between 9 and 10 million.
Okay, so what was his name?
Oh, Jeff Brine.
Okay, so I think we paid him, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, sir.
We
Thank you.
did pay him to do an evaluation on the building for us.
Absolutely. And he came back and he laid out the plan and he told us what it would be. And so we brought that back to the board then. And the board decided to purchase it and said, well, what we'll do is maybe do something, if it's the board's will, do something a little bit later. And so that's exactly what we're looking for now, to get Arbor Cousin renovated, to do the stuff over that we said we was gonna do. But setting that just for a minute aside, there was a project that we already had promised the citizens of Newton County, especially on this side of town. Some stuff that we wanted to do over there, and they wanted it because they walked with us and talked with us and showed us exactly what they wanted to do. But there was also some other projects over at Nelson Heights, and I think the whole list is, oh man, I saw this big old book. List of stuff right here that I'm pretty sure that if anybody wants to take time to dig into it and ask questions, you know, I'll make myself available. And also I'm going to have a town hall meeting at Nelson Heights to further explain this project and all the rest of the projects, if this project or if these projects are approved. It's not something that we've been not asking for, because I've talked about it for few years now. It's something that I feel is needed. The citizens feel like that it's needed. And as long as I sit as district board representative, then we're going to go out and offer up to the board what the citizens want. And lastly, I know we're going to talk about the project that Commissioner Cowan was referring to, said we had to vote on. But I never did, you know, we understand that when you do a fire station, that you have to think about firefighters. You have to think about a fire truck. And even though I remember approving the fire truck, the other stuff that we were talking about, I said, well, why are we going to get all this? And they said, well, we already done budgeted. So, you know, only thing what I'm saying is that the projects, all these projects that I think each commissioner is very important to their districts and should be treated with the same priority as any other one in Newton County. And so I'm hoping that if any questions from anybody, the press or whatsoever, even though I've said a few times that most times they don't call me, ask me anything, they just print what they want to print. And I said, well, that's fine. Maybe that's part of life or where it is. But I'm open to a policy. Call me.
Thank you, sir. So at this point, I want to seek a motion for District 4 project request. And then we'll have discussion. Motion for District 4 project request, either to approve or deny.
Mr. Chairman, I approve the request for District 4 per the information that Commissioner Henderson just stated.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, now that the motion is on the floor, I just want to clarify, I guess, what exactly this motion might accomplish. You're certainly able as a board, as an authority, to approve these projects in concept, but without the funding support of the Board of Commissioners, there's not a whole lot of practical result that's going to come from voting on this. I'm not objecting to voting on it, just want to clarify that at some point the details of the projects, the financing and all that will need to be arranged before this becomes a reality.
Absolutely. Commissioner Henderson, did you have?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, if we think about the fire station, and I hate somewhat talk about that project, we didn't have no money even budgeted for it nowhere, nada. But yet staff worked to make sure that property was available. They were going to find some property, and they were going to build a building, and they needed to estimate cost. So I guess the question that I'm kind of moving toward is how can we do all that, and yet when it comes to somebody who's got the property already been bought, and then you say you got to have a plan for it, and we know or for Cousin, the rest of them, the plant's already there. Every single acre, every acre, is county property. So, you know, and this is how I feel, and for most folks now, what I said, Ronnie spit out. Let's stop having this side of town, we think in terms of maybe not doing as much for as we do for that side of town. I think our staff and our attorneys should be working towards to help us in our ideas rather than sitting back and not saying a word and work for everybody else. So only thing what I'm saying is let's work together.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion? Yes, Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brittany, do we have any idea what, if $14.275 million is going to cost in terms of, I know this is putting you on the spot, that equates to in a 20-year, what that equates to maybe in a $150,000 home, the average taxpayer, or the average renter, for that matter, is going to pay in increased taxes?
Do you mind running through that one more time for me? Your question, will you run your question through one more time for me?
Do we, I know this is an off-the-cuff question, but $14.275 million over a 30-year period or 20-year period bonded at a 2.5% rate, I think is what you had sent me earlier today in email was, I know we looked at the total, but do we know what that will cost us? We'd have to add to the budget to fund just that one project, the District 4 project?
So earlier today, I did run a few quick calculations, and these are just estimates. At $1 million per 2.5% interest rate in a 20-year term, you're looking around $65,000 annually. So then we would take that 65 and multiply by 14 if you have a calculator, if you would do that for me.
65,000 annually times 14.275?
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, can I?
Yes.
I think we did do a calculation on the, based on the millage, there was a calculation done based on the total amount that was submitted, not just on the individual projects, but that total amount for a 20-year on the 40, there's approximately $42 million, I think, worth of projects. And that came out to be 20 years at the total debt service on that would be $2.6 million per year. If we did it for a 30-year, the total debt service on that would be $1.9 million per year. And so you could break that down a little further, but roughly the debt service on $14 million, I think, would be an estimated $600,000 per year for 10 years. Is that right?
Let's see. Okay. If we're looking at a 20-year term, we would be looking between $900,000 and $1 million a year
For the 14.275.
over a 20-year term.
So we're looking at adding $1 million to the annual budget just for the District 4 project.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Yes, Commissioner Henderson.
And I'm not gonna talk too long, but I have a quick question. And I understand about the fire station over in District 1. We also it's gonna be manned, how many people is supposed to have that there? And we've already, I think, either hired or putting the money back in the budget. How many people? 3 shifts?
We do have some contingency positions staffed or in place for Station 4, but I would have to let Chief Connor or Lloyd speak on the exact number.
Okay, so I guess, if I may, so I guess that we have budgeted that particular money, and it's just the estimate, maybe off the top of your head, for 3 shifts, was it about 15 million?
For Station 4?
Yes.
The Station 4 budget for the bond is 4.9 million. The funding, the revenue source for that is the fire district tax. So it has a dedicated funding source already, and that is a tax that is collected countywide to support the fire services. So that's where we're paying for that, and I think the annual cost on that one, because we got a really very low rate on this particular bond, is going to be roughly starts at $450,000, but graduates during the life of the loan to eventually at roughly $570,000 per year.
So paying for the employees.
Probably how many personnel?
Yeah.
We'll need a minimum of 12 personnel over there to man. We need at least 4 people per shift in the station, which is the minimum staffing level. And we do have that planned for that station. That's part of the new hires that we're going to be hiring, that we actually are recruiting for now. But we need a minimum of 12 people in that station.
So if 1 year, how much would we pay for manning that station? I mean, it's not something, because since we're talking about numbers, we're going to be paying those gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, to man that station. And the money is not going to jump out the air. It's going to come from somewhere.
Right, and the money to pay for the personnel in the station would come from 2 sources: the general fund, and also from the is it 279?
Yeah, the fire district fund.
Some of it from fire
271.
district and some of it from the insurance tax that we collect. And that would take care of the paying for the personnel at the firehouse. Chief, do you know what that average salaries would be to man that station for a year? Have you done the calculation, or any station for that matter, for 12 people at the station? So if we use that as an average number, then 12 times that's 600, around 700,000 per year.
Okay.
Salaries and
Plus
benefits.
bennies,
Okay.
which would be, so it'd be roughly $1 million. Our multiplier on benefits is about 1.3. So our salaries are around about 700,000. So if you add another third to that, you're looking at roughly $1 million for employee costs.
So I think the bottom line is that no matter whether you provide services for a community, that you got to pay for it. It has to be paid for. Somebody's gonna pay for it, whether it come out your back pocket, or whether it come out the front pocket, or whether it come out the money that's in your shoe. You're gonna have to pay for it. So to sit here and say, well, it's gonna cost us all that much money, everything that we do costs money.
Mr. Chairman, I don't mean to interrupt, but we got to move on.
Yes, but I want to give everybody an opportunity that wants to speak. So I'm definitely paying
understand.
attention to the time, but I want to give everybody an opportunity to speak, to say what they want to say.
Yes,
If
sir.
I can interject right here, Lloyd, because the issue, it sounds like, that I'm hearing tonight is the issue with bonding all of these projects. Is that correct?
Well, that is certainly the issue. I mean, the projects are all good projects. I think they're all good projects, they're all worthy projects, but just like anything that we undertake, we have to make sure that, one, we can pay for the project, and then two, we have to be able to do the maintenance and operations on a project. And there's only a couple of sources that we really have for funding, immediate sources. One, of course, would be to raise a millage rate, and in order to get the additional funds that's necessary to pay the debt service, which would be quite significant, and if we had to, if the board decided to do that. But secondly would be a SPLOS, which is, most of these projects are really ideal for SPLOS consideration. So that is a major effort. But also beyond that, there's an awful lot of questions on these projects that we talked a little bit about this today, that need to be answered to make sure that we know we're going in the right direction before we really even get to the point of getting enough information to know what we're bonding or how much we need. These numbers may or may not be close to really what we need. They may be more than we need, they may be less than what would be needed. So I think there's a tremendous amount of information that still we don't have in order to.
So I think that's where I want to go. And maybe we can resolve, I mean, of course, we can go through each one and discuss it, but I think what I would like to suggest or recommend, Lloyd, how long do you think it would take for you to go back and review these projects, see what additional funding sources that you can come up with outside of bonding, and then we can have a meeting to come back and say, okay, well, we can get grants, or we can now get state monies, or we can now get private funding, or we can actually utilize SPLOS dollars. How long would it take you to go back and research and then come back to us and say, whatever's left over that you weren't able to find, then we can look into possibly bonding that amount?
I think it would take, a minimum of at least 30 days, but I also think probably one of the things that you would want to do would be to bring this to a BOC meeting, to have the board sign off on these as projects, because in really looking a little deeper into this, we may be a little premature in discussing it with this body at this point, before the BOC has said, yes, we're going to do these projects, and given you some direction that there's support to do the projects, because then you would determine whether or not you want to issue a bond for those projects, and then back to the BOC for that vote of support to back those bonds. But I think I could get that information to you probably within the next 30 days or so, as far as what are the options that you would have on funding. And that would give us some time, too, to get some little deeper information on what some of the requests are, what do they mean, so that we know a little bit more about what we're talking about, what all the things we're talking about.
Right, because based off of what I've seen on all the projects, I'm sure we can utilize other funding. Doesn't necessarily have to be bonding. I know there's grant monies out there that we can use. I know for parks, recreation, we can utilize SPLOST. I'm sure there's corporate funding that we can actually look in having. So, what I would like to suggest, and we can talk about each one real briefly, the last two, and then get down, or the last three. If we can, what I'd like to propose is that we approve all of these requests tonight to be bonded, with the intent that you will go back, find additional resources, financial resources, And then once you find those additional resources, come back to us and say that you found other resources where we won't have to bond these projects. And then we can reconvene and have another meeting because you've gone back and you found SPLOSH dollars, you found grant money, you found other resources where we probably won't even have to bond any of these projects.
I will definitely do that to look to see what, what is available. But I would also, recommend that if these are projects, the projects within the districts, that you do take it to the full BOC to get the
Right.
BOC approval to move ahead with the projects, because you're going to need that. This body can't issue the bonds without the backing of the county, so you've got to have both of those things together. So.
Right. Yes, Commissioner.
I do have something to mention. We speak on the motto, 1 Newton, but when we come here, we don't exemplify 1 Newton. Our taxpayers pay, it's kind of like an investor. They pay taxes, and they're looking to see a return on their investment. District 2, District 3, and District 4 pays the most taxes in Newton County. Majority of the budget is based on those 3 districts. District 3 has your most homes, so those property owners are paying a tremendous amount of taxes and looking to see a return on their investment. They're looking to see those parks in their community they've been asking for years that's not there. They're looking for various things. Yes, it is 1 Newton, but we have to also think about those taxpayers who are paying their money and not seeing a return on their investment.
Thank you. And I was going to add with that too, Lloyd, not to say that we're going to go ahead and issue bonds for
Yeah.
these. I want to get clarity.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely.
We're just saying we want to approve the projects.
Yeah.
Go back, research, find what other financial resources we can utilize, then come
Sure.
back and say, we found X amount of dollars for each one of these projects, so we won't have to bond X amount.
Sure.
And if there's any left over, if we can bond, and we may not even be able to bond them all at one time, but we will put together a plan of prioritize which ones will be bonded if we even have to bond any of the projects at all.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
absolutely, and I can do that. Like I said, if we can get that back to you probably within 30 days or so. We could do it at your next scheduled meeting, whenever that is. And I think
And we can set that up at any
Whenever you
time.
say- okay.
Yeah, we can set up just whenever you have the data, if it's 30 days.
I think we can
and you
probably
can
get
get the
that to you
data to
by
30
then.
days, then I can go ahead and set up another meeting,
Okay.
and then we can come back and talk about the findings that you found.
We can
So-
talk about what we found or didn't find and what's available and whatnot.
That's correct. But we'll go ahead and approve each
Sure.
one tonight, dependent upon what you find.
Right.
Is there any other discussion?
And maybe I'm devil advocate. What if we don't? What then we just blowing smoke and come back in 30 days and we still have nothing? Because if it took 24 years and you don't have nothing, so why am I to believe, or how can I believe that in 30 days now, so we're going to find something?
Okay.
So Lloyd, I guess, did you want to
I'm sorry.
kind of address that concern?
Yeah, I'm
The
sorry.
concern on the floor is, what if after 30 days, we don't have anything? So can we be assured
I mean,
that you'd have that data?
Certainly, if there isn't anything, I don't know how successful we'd be, to be quite honest, at not, or at being able to find total funding on these projects other than either bonding the project, which, like I said, is either going to, which is most likely going to have to result in a tax increase because you've got to pay the debt service. Or, I mean, you could also do it as a SPLOST. I think those are the two most likely places where you're going to find funding. You can do a SPLOST and use SPLOST money for debt relief. So it is possible to use the SPLOST to pay down the debt. So it's, while you're still, you're still using tax dollars, it's just one avenue of doing it. But it would not have an impact on the general fund. But certainly, you all can decide whatever projects, and that's your prerogative, is to bond whatever projects. However, as Sam pointed out and I pointed out, you still, the BOC still has to, the BOC as a body has to approve it, and since most of y'all, or all of y'all are on the
All of
BOC,
us. So that's what I'm
assuming
saying, it's
that
still
if
the
you're
same
here,
body.
it's just, it's a process, though.
Right.
The Public Facilities Authority cannot obligate the BOC to back a bond.
Correct.
The BOC has to do that. So that's why there's got to be, it has to be approved by the BOC, and it's got to be approved in order to get, to issue the bond. Because since you have no assets, obviously there's not anything that would entice an investor to invest in the bond, or maybe very little. But so certainly, if there isn't anything but that, then that would be a decision that would have to be made. Really, again, that would have to be made by the BOC as to whether or not to raise the millage rate to pay for it, or to try to get to put it on a SPLOST referendum and try to get the voters then to support the SPLOST referendum and approve it that way.
Yeah, well, I am hearing that there are a lot of dollars out there that we can find. So I think if we just continue to only keep it to bonds and SPLOST, what that's going to do is it's going to eliminate the projects. But if you look at other ways of funding, if you look at grants, if you look at state level funding, if you look at other options, I think that's going to help us even more, because I know even like there's a lot of grants out there for parks.
Well, and that's what I'm not eliminating them. I'm just, obviously we're going to look wherever we can to see what money is available and for what. I mean, sometimes there's money available to do planning and just the development side of the park master plan. Sometimes it's for particular equipment in a park, or sometimes, it's for the entire thing. So that's what we have to look at, is what can be put together to do the whole project.
Yeah, because I'm sure we can find funding that won't require these projects to be bonded. We just have to take the time to find those additional resources. And so that's why my suggestion was that we approve them all tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go back, not to say that you're going to submit bonds tomorrow, that you go back, do that additional research, find out those additional financial resources, and then we'll have a follow-up meeting to say, well, were you able to find other funding sources for the projects? And if not, then what do we need to bond, if any at all?
Sure. If it comes to close to the end of the 30 days, and I think we would need some more time, I would come back to you and say, I'd like to have an additional 30 days or whatever it is. But I'm making a little bit of an assumption that we should know pretty much within 30 days where we're going to find what might be available.
Okay. So now on agenda item number, were there any other discussion? Commissioner Edwards, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's been a lot of comparisons of these projects to the fire station, and I want to make sure everybody's on. A fire station is a matter of public safety. Districts 2, 3, and 4 have adequate fire protection. You don't have to worry about, a fire truck will be at your house if it catches on fire. In parts of District 5 and parts of District 1, we don't have that luxury. So we're talking about people's lives at stake. I want to make sure we make the distinction between the District 3, 4, and 2, 3, and 4 projects and a fire station. You are adequately covered. We are not. Parts of our districts are not. So I just want to make sure we're not confusing wants. What the project requests here are need or wants, and the fire station for the number 4 station is actually in District 5. The new location is actually in District 5, but it covers parts of District 1 and parts of District 5. So I want to make sure we're not getting that confused. We're talking about public safety, people's lives and people's property, versus parks and aquatic centers and stuff like that. So I just want to make sure we're not confusing the two. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir.
I want to
Yes,
add
Commissioner
one
Sanders.
comment to that. I don't want it to be put out there that we are here wanting or just doing certain things. I completely understand about your fire station, or the fire station for the county, because it's not just districts. That district fire station is Newton County. But it's not a want. The citizens have been asking for this for years. So we were put in place to represent those citizens. So if they're requesting certain things based on the tax dollars that they pay, it is our job to bring that up before the board to make sure the citizens get what they need. It's not a want. They need parks for children. In District 3, we have subdivisions being built on top of subdivisions, houses on top of houses. And these children have nothing to do and no place to go. So that is not a want. So we don't want to put that out there to make it a negative connotation. It's what our citizens are requesting.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you. This is my one last comment. Last year, during the summer or at Factory Show, he was a young man and his stepson who got drowned. There were signs all around the park that says, swim at your own risk. And that's exactly what they done. Didn't have nowhere else to go. Well, the little boy, DJ Hardeman, was my neighbor. And I seen him regularly. He always wanted somewhere where he could shoot basketball or somewhere where he could maybe get swimming lessons so he could learn how to swim, but they were not afforded to him. And so I read the article, and it kind of made me a little bit sad. And it said, well, I know them. Well, I know them too. And also in the article, another family said, my husband or my son died down here too. And we're doing nothing. Nothing. You got to teach, they're not even trying to teach their kids how to swim. And so, and I think, when there's a need, I think, and to me, DJ was worth more than any amount of money we could ever think about or get for him, because it meant a whole lot to his family. And I knew him personally. So, I don't know. I don't think I'm just in it just to say, well, we high-pie stuff in the sky. This is something that's going to could save somebody's life, as well as you think of the fire stations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. We're actually moving close to our time where we need to end. So I think we've kind of come up with a resolution on District 4, 3, and 2 projects. I think Lloyd has the marching orders on what we want to do from here. So I guess we need to go to each individual one. Okay. So what we can do is go through each individual one. We kind of already know what we're going to do for all 3 of those projects. So we go through each individual one, approve them or deny them, and then Lloyd will go back, do his research, and we'll have another follow-up meeting in 30 days. So I seek a motion for District 4 project 4 request. Okay, I'm sorry. So all in favor for District 4 project request? All opposed? Okay, that passes 3-2. Item number 7, District 3 project request. Commissioner Sanders, did you want to say something real quickly in regards to that project?
Sorry. If you've being on Fairview Road in Fairview Estates, inside of that subdivision is a park that nobody knows even exists. My predecessor actually put that park in place. Even individuals that are on, I live off Fairview, and I had no idea that park was there. I believe the park cost $2.1 million, and there's nothing there. And the citizens thought it was for the actual subdivision because it was a park built inside of a subdivision. So they travel almost 20+ minutes to get to the nearest park. I even travel to go to DeMond's area, Commissioner Mason's area, to go to the park and ride my bike, and it's about 20+ minutes. Everybody in the county can afford to travel 20+ minutes. I thank God that I can do that. But if we have one in the community to be able to have what we need, and the great thing about it is we already own the land, 120 acres of land with nothing on it that can be assessed, that can be accessible to our citizens in District 3 and beyond, because it's for Newton County, to be able to have that park on there and give them what they need so that we can be just like all the other districts that have a place for those in the area. As I stated, there are more subdivisions being built, 521 home subdivisions coming, townhomes are coming, and there's no recreation at all in District 3 for these citizens. You're bringing all of the homes, but nothing for those children who coming in the area to have time and to be able to play, a community center for our seniors, various things. There's nothing in the area for those citizens who are looking for this and been looking for it for years. Thank you.
Thank you. So I seek a motion for District 3 project request.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve.
Thank you, sir. Second? We need a second.
I second.
Thank you. Commissioner Henderson made the motion. Commissioner Sanders second. All in favor? All opposed? Passed 3-2. We'll go to District 2 project request. Of course, that's in my district. I just want to say, when I actually ran in 2018, this was a project that the citizens in District 2 definitely pushed and pushed and pushed. I've actually been working on this project since January 2019. And so with this particular project, it'll be definitely something where we can have before, after school programs. Our seniors will be able to take care of it. Our youth will be able to participate. We're looking at an aquatic center. We've talked about having an aquatic center in Newton County. We have the land, we own the land there. It will be a state-of-the-art facility, meeting spaces, all that above, and I think each commissioner basically has a complete outline of our operation, maintenance and operations. Once we actually get this project completed, this project will bring in anywhere between $20,000 to $60,000 a month to the actual county. So we'll actually basically take care of itself. I think it'll be a major, for those of you who have visited Denny Dobbs, you know that it is packed almost every single day. The basketball courts, when we had the basketball courts up, field, and so this will be an actual great project for not only just District 2, but for the entire county as a whole. So I seek a motion for District 2 project request.
So moved as stated by the chairman.
Thank you, sir. And a second.
I second.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? That passes 3-2. Now moving down to item 9, the consideration and approval of resolution R011921, which is a resolution to provide for the issuance of a Newton County Public Facilities Authority revenue bond for Fire Station Number 4 and the equipment project, to authorize an installment sale agreement with Newton County, authorize a placement agent agreement with Stifel, Nicholas and Company, and for related purposes. Seek a motion.
Motion to approve as stated by the chairman.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Cowan. And any discussion?
Could you restate the motion?
Yes.
Or somebody, if you would, please.
So it's a motion to approve R011921, which is a resolution to provide for the issuance of a Newton County Public Facilities Authority revenue bond, Fire Station 4 and equipment project, authorize and installment sale agreement with Newton County, authorize a placement agent agreement with Stifel, Nicholas and Company, and for related purposes.
Question, if I may.
Sure.
If we were to table it, would it put that deal in jeopardy?
We have scheduled informally with Judge Zahn a hearing on the bond. We have already prepared all the paperwork and arranged for a closing. And so while it wouldn't be impossible to redo all that, it would be a shame to undo all that work that we've done to set this up.
And I hear you, but I also, you know, and this is just me, and then wherever cause may fall, I think it was, to me, a disservice for us to come back to my 30 days. And when we are always asked to make sacrifices, and nobody else asked it. So, having said that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a substitute motion that we table bonding in our projects until the 30 days till we come back.
Okay.
I have a question for legal. So you said all the paperwork was done, all the paperwork was done before we even voted for this project?
So we have to set up, we have to get pricing of the bonds. We have to set up the agreements and the resolutions. And then, assuming you were to approve this tonight, we would immediately, like tomorrow and the next day, jump into getting the hearing officially noticed in the newspaper, you know, moving forward with the hearing, which would be in early February. We basically just did all the prep work in anticipation that you would approve it. It's not like we approved anything before this meeting.
Any other discussion? I want to ask, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, again, I think Commissioner Cowan and I are simply asking that our districts are down here with fire protection. We simply want to come up to where you guys, 2, 3, or 4 are with fire protection. In the lives, in saving the lives and the property of the citizens of our 2 districts. And those trucks will run over and spill over to the other districts too. We simply want to come up to where you are in your fire protection. We're not asking for anything more. We're asking to simply equal the playing field across all the districts. We've got people in District 5 and District 1 who are paying double in insurance. And their house could burn down before a fire truck could get there. So we just simply want the public safety to be raised to the same standards in our, or fill at least some of the gaps in those 2 counties, 2 districts anyway. That's all we're asking for, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Yes. I wonder, man.
So I think there was a proposed substitute motion had not been seconded. So I think that until that is seconded, the original motion is still there. But
So do we have a second for the substitute motion?
I second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the substitute motion. No additional discussion? And that was to table the,
30 days, we all come back. This meeting for discussion.
did you need to say something?
So we have Brian Husky from Stifel in the audience. Brian, if this were to be tabled for 30 days, I assume we would have to reprice the bonds, get a new interest rate and all that stuff.
Their bid expires after
45 days from when, Brian?
from when it's accepted or denied, whether it's active.
Oh. 45 days. So we would have the same price if we came back in 30 days?
Yeah, but we accept it in 30 days. I think we could go to keep that price.
So all those in favor of the substitute motion that we table this until 30 days? All opposed? Could that motion passed 3-0, so we'll table that until
We're
we
gonna
come
hold
back.
District 1 hostage, is what we're gonna do. We're gonna bring some District
Excuse me, Commissioner, we gotta maintain order, Commissioner, we gotta maintain order. All right, so at this time, we'll table number 9. And at this time, we have, I'll need seek a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And second? Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.